I've lived in New Jersey for all my life. The neighborhood I live in couldn't be more secluded or safe. Or, that's what I thought, up until a couple days ago. You see, there is an old abandoned house in my area. Nobody has owned the house for over 50 years, so yeah, it's pretty old and ruined. Caution tape normally covered the area. But surprisingly, the strangest part of the house isn't the house itself. It's the basketball hoop that sits in the driveway. This isn't just an ordinary basketball hoop. This one was old and rusted, with a tangled chain net and a badly bent rim. And on top of all that, the most unsettling and confusing part was that there were toddler clothes tied around the hoop's pole. I've noticed this every time I pass this house. Well, which isn't very often. I'd say maybe 2 times a month. 1 week ago I decided to get a closer look at the house and basketball hoop. The house reeked of mold and urine. The house's gutters and roof were beginning to sag, most likely from water damage over the years. I began to walk over to the basketball hoop. I stood there motionless, staring at it for a minute or so, just listening as the tangled chain slightly swung back and forth as the wind went by. The clothes on the pole were stained with rust and chipping paint. Multiple pairs of pants and shirts could be seen. I was puzzled why somebody would do that. I decided to walk behind the house just to see what lay beyond it. First off, the grass grew up to my kneecaps, so it was kinda hard to walk. And second, there were garbage piles in the back corners of the yard. Plants and weeds were growing out of the old pool in the middle of the yard. After observing for a while, I left. The smell of the house was getting to me and my head was starting to ache. 2 days later, I talked to my friend Logan about the house. He must have had more knowledge and history on the house because he knew who lived there before it was abandoned. Harry Gorgon was the previous owner. He died in 1964. Shortly after, the house was abandoned. I forgot to mention that the house is by itself. It sits at the end of a cul-de-sac, and all the other houses around it have been demolished. Me and Logan went home to do more research on the house. The thing I wanted to know most of all was why all the toddler clothes around the basketball hoop. It didn't make sense. Logan found out that in recent years, the house has been used for gangs to hide out in. We looked for hours trying to find more history on it. There wasn't much more information to be found. Logan had to go home and it was getting late. Right before he left, he said, "Hey, call me if you find out anything else." "I will," I replied. I didn't look for much longer, mostly because it was just information on the house and not the basketball hoop. I was getting pretty bored. That was until I decided to search basketball hoop covered in clothes. I didn't expect to see anything, but what I found made my blood run cold. The page that I came across said that 3 years ago, a man was arrested when he murdered 6 children, all of which were in the abandoned house. And it said that after each murder that occurred, the killer proceeded to tie the clothes around the house's basketball hoop. I stopped reading, not wanting to know any more about this sick story. I couldn't help but remember the clothes around the pole. The stains that I saw must not have been rust. I called my friend Logan and explained what happened. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. I told him that we were not to tell anybody. He agreed. This just goes to show that even the nicest neighborhood can have a dark history. Update. It's been 4 months since going to the house. I went to go visit my friend, which is on the other side of a big field past the cul-de-sac. Unfortunately, that meant I had to pass the old house. I decided to take one quick look at the house before never going back. What I saw still makes me question how safe this neighborhood really is. Tied around the basketball hoop was a fresh pair of clothes.